back in the summer of 2023. What could have caused these impossible to believe scenes?
That's barely recognisable. You can see I've got the Force Ghosts here, the Force Ghosts 3-pack. What a beautiful set this is. They've got the recently deceased Jedi Masters there in their 90s, their see-through negligees. Saucy. But there's a problem for old people like me, the over 40s. This is not the right figure. What the hell? I mean, no offence, Hayden Christensen. Apparently he's a terrific chap. But it's not the right Anakin for me personally. So I have got a little head here from Scoundrel Stock, which looks great, to be fair. That looks really great. And so I'm going to try and paint this up. I've only painted a couple of these heads previously, not this head, but like a couple of heads in general. So we'll see how that goes. And I've also got the Land Speeder Luke. God bless you, Land Speeder Luke. What a hero he is. I've printed this out. And it's just printed out in brown, and I've given it a brown wash and a black wash, and I've just picked out the rope you can see there, just in a slightly lighter shade of sort of sandy brown, and I think it looks pretty good. So they're going to arrange on there, assuming I can make this head look half decent, which is by no means a given. So I'm going to open up this pack as gently as I can. Oh yeah, yeah. These are great, aren't they? These card backs, I love them. They're so sexy. They make me feel like I'm at 6 again. The size of them, and tiny, tiny Yoda in there. I'm sure I'm not the first person to mention that. Here he is. So I'm going to see if we can replace the head. I had took a look at Sebastian Shaw. He's a big guy. And in relation to Obi-Wan, I think this is still about the right sort of size of figure. So hoping just swapping the heads will be okay if I don't bodge up the paint job. So, to the painting cupboard.
Here we go. I saw this way of opening figures on someone's YouTube channel. Forgive me if it was yours, because I couldn't find the video again, but it's great because it keeps the bubble intact. You just slide it at the bottom, the packaging can slide back in, as can the figure, and if you want to, you can display it and you wouldn't really know, you wouldn't really know that it's been opened, which is great if you change your mind and want to display it. Nice this time just to be popping off their head, so obviously put them in a bit of almost boiling water, let it heat up. While that was happening, I did a little bit of prep on the Scoundrel Stock head, but I don't think I really needed to because it was in great condition. I think it was pretty much ready to paint, but just in my inexperience, I guess, I wanted to make sure, so I just gave the bottom of the head a little sand, just in case. But you're going to see the details of this head come up later. I mean, I'm sure a more skilled painter would bring out the details even better. But yeah, really lovely head. Just checking to see how does it fit at the moment with the neck peg. It was very high, like a giraffe neck, a bit like the Han Solo from A New Hope. So I'm just popping that off, and I'm going to sit it on with no peg, so just on top of the no ball joint, so just on top of the neck. I don't personally mind using a bit of tack to seat them. I feel like you can still move them around. For the painting of the head, I followed Scale War Machine's YouTube tutorial where they're painting Brad Pitt from Fury. They're not actually painting, they're painting a model of Brad Pitt from Fury with the Vallejo face paints. Not the face paints, the head paints. Face paints makes it sound like they're painting up a child to look like Spider-Man. Anyway, it's a really great tutorial. I'll put a link to it below. I got heavy-handed the first time out and made a right dog's dinner. Had to scrap it all.
Sorry about the mess.
Clean it up and round we go. So, from the top, so you cover it with some black paint just to give it a prime, an undercoat, and then from the top just spraying down with white, and that gives it this nice sort of highlights where the light would land on the top of the head. And then as you layer the colours thinly over the top, and that seems to be the key, thinly, you've still got underneath the sort of highlights and the shading that sits through. I think I was a little bit heavy in my painting, and so I lost some of that and then had to just sort of paint in my light and shade
over the top of everything else. So that was my inexperience, but the tutorial is great anyway, so look out for that in the links. If you're painting heads, I recommend it. Once you've done the little bit of undercoat and the highlights, you are then mixing up some eye color. So this is just a bit of white with a tiny bit of gray, just so it's not weird poppy white eyes. People don't have white eyes, it turns out. I didn't know until I started painting. You paint an eyeball white, it looks super weird. So this is just a little bit of gray, and this is delicate work, but it's easy because you don't need to be too precise, because you're going to then line the eyes with this red. So like a bit of eyeliner going around in this burnt red, and it might seem strange when you first look at it, like the sort of demon eyes, but actually it does work out really nicely. So you go around, you do this with the red on both eyes, and then we mix up a little bit of color just to put the pupils in. So trying to get the pupils in the right place so it's not cross-eyed or looking weird, and for that it's a bit of black. And then the iris around that, I noticed Sebastian Shaw's eyes were brown. They changed it in an edit so that it would match up, I think, with Hayden Christensen's before they replaced Hayden Christensen. Or maybe that was the helmet comes off, they've replaced his eyes to be blue, but they're really brown. So there's just a little bit of the black of the pupils, then a bit of brown of the iris, and then a tiny bit of white just to give it a little fleck of light in the eye. I'll be honest, I was a bit clumsy, so I had to then go back, but it's no big deal because you can go back and you just reline around the eyes, and then immediately around the eyes is sort of a pinky red mixture. You'll see that all the colours are listed here for the real detail, but you can see there you're just sort of like he's had a heavy night, really, I suppose. It's very red eye around that, but all of this then is going to get covered over anyway with a much lighter skin colour, but it just keeps a bit of sort of depth around the eyes, which is really nice. So you go through these weird phases as you paint this, of going like, oh wow, this, can that be right? But you know, have faith with the process and it works out okay. But like I said, I got heavy at this next stage, and it's supposed to be very transparent, so very watery wash, and I couldn't get the watery wash. The mix was just weird. It was leaving sort of patching weirdly as I was applying it, so then I ended up applying a bit too much and then wiping some off, and anywho, but it's you know, it's a learning process, and it was still, you know, that was frustrating in places. It was still very enjoyable overall. I nearly gave up and washed the whole thing off a second time, but I'm glad I didn't, because as we'll see, I think it turns out okay. So I managed to sort of pull it back. But yeah, here we're just getting a base sort of shade on. It's not supposed to cover all the dark and the light that we've already done underneath, so you're still supposed to be able to see some shading underneath there. You can probably see this is already a little bit heavier than I really need to go, and then I've jumped a little bit here, so this is just me then applying the next level of skin tone, and there's a little bit of light and dark coming through, but yeah, but then I have to go through and sort of add it in myself. Not worried too much about painting over the hairline, that's all fine, I can adjust that, and then occasionally I go back in just to sort of put in some darker, some more reddy effects to the skin, like where you might have folds and some shadow. And basically, if I've done too much, you can see here I've got like just a clean brush, and I'm just going in and just blending it, really, just making it look a little bit softer. So it's sort of easy enough to undo, but I guess you have to watch for making everything too thick. If the paint gets too thick and claggy, it just starts to look bad. I think I just about stayed the right side of too thick with the paint. But it's really fun as you start to paint him, starting to see the figure, you know, come to life, and your hand slips and you smudge a bit in the eye, and then it looks rubbish again and you have to go back and but I'm sure hopefully as I get more experience with this, there'll be less bodging. You can see there I put on some light because I'm trying to bring the skin tone a bit lighter. I noticed he was a little bit permatanned, so he was a little bit orange. So then comparing him with the Obi-Wan, because obviously he's going to sit next to the Obi-Wan, so they need to look kind of connected in their tone, even though they're different people. So I decided, yeah, it was a little bit dark, so just lightening him up a little bit with white mixed with thinner, just to try and get it really thin, just putting a gentle wash on, and then where it was a bit heavy, just blending in with a clean brush. And that seemed, with my fat thumb, that seemed to be getting the job done. It was bringing me closer to where I wanted to be skin tone wise. A bit more there, a bit more white. You can see I'm a little bit heavy handed, but even with that I can still, you can still pull it back, still keep working it. Not too bad. Wipe a bit more off, blend a bit more in. And then here I'm just bringing in a bit more of that colour, just to put back some colour under the eye where I lost some of the darker shades of red from earlier. I've just gone over them too much. And then putting some on the lips just very lightly, etc. So yeah, just keep working him. And then I had a bit of a dilemma at this point about how to try and started the project really not quite knowing how to give him that sort of that interesting shading, so we'll come to that in a moment. In the meantime, then Sebastian Shaw has some fairly bushy eyebrows, as you can see, and they remain quite dark, so I was a little bit anxious putting them on, like it was going to ruin the figure, but I popped them on and they look pretty good. And then I just come back in with some greys, so just white and black, just mixing up some little bits of greys as we go, just softening the black of the eyebrow, and then starting to drop in the hair. And at first it was far too dark, it looked like an advert for Just for Men. So taking some off, rubbing them in again. Apologies for this camera work, by the way. I am aware that the head is a little to the low of the frame. Once I'd worked the hair a little bit, I started to think then about how to get this ghostly shimmer, and I popped into Hobbycraft, which I've got just down the road, and had a chat with them, and they pointed me towards this metallic blue and a silver that seemed to have like an interesting sheen. The blue I tried mixing and was just gave too dirty an effect on the skin, even when it dried. The silver was promising, particularly for the hair, so I put that to one side thinking, yeah, we'll use it for the hair, and then trying on Kylo Ren, just a spare head. I have no intention to use because I'm original trilogy, and there I'm just watering some of that silver down and putting on the Kylo Ren, and that seemed to work. Back to Anakin, and here I found this really sort of wiry brush with this. I thought, well, that might be interesting for hair, and I loosely mixed up the grey, and that really seemed to give some interesting texture to the hair. So rather than it all being uniform, some bits are lighter and so on, so it gave it an interesting texture. And then just going around the face now with the silver and a little bit of, maybe it was gloss, and then just giving him a bit of a shine. As it happens, I have to go back and undo some of that. There I'm just matching the neck to the face, so neck as it was for Hayden Christensen was a little bit different colour to what I ended up for Sebastian Shaw's head, so just changing the colours a little bit. Now just taping over the cape. The cape is slightly different shape for Sebastian Shaw as Anakin had it. So Anakin's got a V, Sebastian Shaw's got more of a crew neck, a round neck. So a little bit of milliput, is that it? I don't know. Anyway, you mix part A and B, you mix it up in equal measure all together, leave it for about 10 minutes so it starts to firm up. And here you can see I'm just adding it into the shirt, so that just making a round neck, really just filling in, and then with a wet finger just rubbing around, smoothing it out, using this tool a little bit as well. Don't really know what I'm doing with that tool, but you know, getting a job done. And then I paint it up with mahogany and black, a sort of mix, so it's just a very dark, slightly brown mix. Plaster that on, and over the top of that then I painted just that metallic blue you can see in the palette there, and that gave it a nice sort of ghostly blue sheen. It sat quite nicely on top of the blacky brown colour. And when I took off the masking tape, it obviously was protecting the jacket. When I took that off, it did mess it up a little bit, so I had to go back in, push the middle part down, tidy up some of the paint. Got a bit of paint on the neck there. Just tidy that away. And at this point, I'm starting to think, well, we're getting there. Getting close. Assembling, popping the head on, and then a bit of matte varnish. I also gave him a spray because he was too glossy, he was too shiny, and that is us done.
Well, looks like the lads had a good time at their party night on Endor. Actually, there's no point in ghosts getting drunk, is there? Drinking. What sense would there be in that? Anywho, really pleased with this. I think it's pretty good. The paint's a little bit thicker than I would have liked. 1/12 head painting is hard. That's the thing I've learned. My hat goes off to the 3.75 painters and like the Warhammer painters. Crikey, this was difficult enough. But with a bit of perseverance and following that tutorial that I'll post in the link as well, that was super helpful. I think we got there, and I'm really pleased to have a Force Spirit set that feels like it goes with my original trilogy needs. So that's cool. Let me know what you think. Have you done one yourself? I'd be really interested to see pictures. If you're on Insta, look me up at Crafty Padawan and show me what you've been up to. There'll be more original trilogy fun coming soon. But until then, thanks for watching. Subscribe. See you soon.